Hi, I'm Vivek. Welcome to the Cricket Podcast. Today we are going to discuss the match between India and South Africa, that is the second T20I that happened in Guwahati. Just to give you a brief summary, India batted first and scored 237 for the loss of 3 wickets in the 20 overs. And South Africa scored 221 for the loss of 3 wickets in the 20 overs. If you look at the scorecard, it feels like South Africa came quite close to India's target. But if you actually looked at the match over by over, it always felt like South Africa were behind the game and India always had an upper hand. Now, before going into India's and South Africa's batting innings, let's talk about the pitch. I personally felt the pitch was not a 220, 230 kind of pitch. I felt the pitch was more of a 190, 200 kind of pitch. Both the bowling teams had an off day today. South Africa pretty much had an off day throughout their bowling innings, whereas India had an off day in the later half of their bowling innings. So let's talk about India's batting innings first. We'll start off with the power play. KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma started the power play really well. They were batting very well. KL Rahul was clearly the aggressor in that partnership. And Rohit Sharma, although he started slow, he compensated for that later on. On the other hand, I thought South African bowlers uh, were not able to maintain their line and length in the power play. They were getting hit on both sides of the wickets. The other thing that I found in South Africa's bowling is that they started off bowling those off cutters and those slower deliveries way too quickly in the power play. You saw bowlers like Rabada and Parnell bowling that. You can expect Ngidi to bowl that because Ngidi has a really good slower ball and his slower ball sort of dips and is used to bowling those slower balls. But someone like Rabada and Parnell as well, they started bowling those slower deliveries and it felt like they went off their strength. They could have bowled those seam up deliveries and tried to use the conditions much more, but they couldn't do that. So India finished the power play on a high. They scored 57 runs in the power play and it was the perfect start for India. Now let's get into the middle overs. So Rohit Sharma got out, but KL Rahul continued his form. And man, what a player KL Rahul is. It is such a delight to watch him bat. He hits the ball so effortlessly. He always maintains his shape and it feels like his batting is so smooth. And I also think he benefited from the innings he played against South Africa in the first T20I because he faced that difficult conditions and it was a tough innings for him, but he survived that. And that innings sort of gave him a lot of confidence and he showed that in this match. And I think having someone like KL Rahul in good form going into the World Cup is really crucial for India because then you have all the top three KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma, and Virat Kohli in good form going into the World Cup, and that will be really beneficial for Team India. Now let's talk about the partnership between Suryakumar Yadav and Virat Kohli. Suryakumar Yadav yet again, day in and day out, he's showing us that he's in sublime form. He's someone like you can say he's in God mode type of form, where you almost feel that he's predicting where the bowler is going to bowl and he knows where he is going to hit the ball for a 6 or for a 4. Because you see his innings, he scored at a strike rate of around 270. And generally, when you see someone play at that high strike rate, you see that batsman is targeting a specific area and hitting those slogging type of shots. In the case of Suryakumar Yadav, you almost felt like he was playing that 360-degree game that we are used to seeing with AB de Villiers, where he was hitting the ball behind the wicket, in front of the wicket, in the leg side, on the off side as well. The way he's playing, I think what he does to the India's batting lineup is that he always ensures that India don't lose their momentum in those middle overs. And he continued to do that in today's match as well. And the foundation that he built during those middle overs ensured that India were in a commanding position when they reached that final 5. Now let's talk about the final 5 overs. So Virat Kohli understood his role really well. When he was playing with Suryakumar Yadav, he understood that he just needed to rotate strike and Suryakumar was doing the bulk of the scoring. And once Suryakumar Yadav got out, Virat Kohli understood that now he needs to change gears. And he did that really well in the final 5. To add on to that, Dinesh Karthik came in and played that typical finisher role that we all want him to play. That is playing those 6-7 balls, scoring at a strike rate of more than 200. And he did that. On the other hand, I felt South Africa's day just got worse. The thing was, the bowlers were not able to maintain their line and length and there were too many full deliveries, there were too many short deliveries. And the way they were trying to bowl those slower balls, and because the pitch was not really holding up those slower balls, so it was easy for the batsman to score even in the slower deliveries. So it felt like During the middle overs and in the death overs, their day just kept getting worse and worse. And when India finished up with a score of 237 for the loss of 3 wickets. Now, if you look at from Indian cricket team side, they pretty much had the perfect batting innings. They started well in the power play, they accelerated in the middle overs, and they finished on a high. Now we cannot forget Keshav Maharaja's bowling. So he's a special mention in the first innings because when team like India scores 237 runs in their 20 overs, Keshav Maharaj just gave 24 runs in his 4 overs. So he was just going at an economy of like 6 runs per over. So that was really good to see. He was not allowing the Indian batsmen to play big shots against him. He had that bit of help in the pitch as well. The ball was turning, but I think he used the pitch really well and he didn't allow the Indian batsmen to hit many shots against him. And I also think South Africa did miss a trick here since the pitch was helping the spinners a bit. I think they were a spinner short. In the previous game, we saw they went on with 2 spinners, and here they just picked 1 spinner, Keshav Maharaj. I think someone like Tabrez Shamsi would have been a good choice in this particular pitch since it was holding up a bit as well. Now let's talk about South Africa's batting innings. In the power play itself, you saw that South Africa were not able to get to a good start. And I want to mention a difference between how South African bowlers bowled in the power play as compared to the Indian bowlers. You saw Indian bowlers, obviously because they are more used to the home conditions, their line and length were much different than that of the South African bowlers. You saw Deepak, Chahar and Arshdeep Singh were trying to swing the ball, they were trying to bowl those good length areas. Whereas in the first innings, you saw South African bowlers, when they were trying to bowl full, they were either too full or they were either too short. And obviously because Deepak Chahar and Arshdeep Singh have played a lot of matches in Indian conditions, they obviously had a upper hand in using those home conditions to their advantage. And they did that really well. On the other hand, someone like Bavuma was not really able to get off to a good start and his poor form sort of continued in this match as well. The start was quite slow from South Africa. So even though it looked like South Africa were in a okay position since they were 45 runs for the loss of 2 wickets in the power play, it felt like they were quite behind the game and they were always chasing the game from the power play itself. I just don't say this because of the scorecard, because the scorecard says they still scored 45 runs for the loss of 2 wickets and they were only 12 runs behind of India's power play score. The thing that we have to mention is Quinton de Kock's form at that particular time, because Quinton de Kock during the power play as well, he was not able to rotate strike and he used up quite a lot of deliveries. So South Africa in the middle overs were going in with Quinton de Kock, who's not in a good form, and they were chasing up that run rate that they had to keep up with. So let's talk about the middle overs. So the middle overs pretty much was about Quinton de Kock and David Miller. Now it clearly felt like Quinton de Kock was batting on a different pitch and David Miller was batting on a different pitch. Let's talk about Quinton de Kock first. I think Quinton de Kock in this particular innings had 2 options to go with. The first option was he could feel he is not in good form, so he would just try to slog it out, and if he gets out, probably the next batsman will come in and then try to compensate for that. The second option was that Quinton de Kock sort of understands that this is a high scoring game and South Africa might not get close to the scores, so he might as well use this opportunity to get that game time or the match time that probably will turn into confidence, and in the next match he can play with much more freedom. And I think he chose the second option. He spent that match time. He got that match time in this particular match. Now David Miller has been in sublime form for the last year or so. The way he's played in the IPL as well, and now for South Africa, he's been playing in a form where you almost sense that he knows he can play both the spinners and the fast bowlers very well. And I think that has been the biggest improvement, because someone like David Miller, when you saw him in the past like 2 3 years, you could see he sometimes used to get out to the spinners. But I think the biggest improvement that he has brought to his game is the way he plays spinners. He is understanding that he not only needs to slog, he needs to rotate strike, and he has sort of made his range wider. Now he hits through the offside as well, hits through the point region as well, he hits through the leg side as well. So his hitting range has become much more wider now, and I think that is a very big improvement. And the way he played, I felt he probably should have gotten the man of the match for this particular match, even though South Africa were on a losing side. Now, although Quinton de Kock and David Miller played well, in the last 5 overs, it almost felt like South Africa had a mountain to climb since they needed 95 from like 30 balls. So let's talk about the death overs. So Quinton de Kock finally could free up. He was able to clear the boundary on a much more regular basis, and you felt like he's coming back to form. And whereas David Miller continued his form and he just played in one note throughout the innings. On the other hand, I felt someone like Arshdeep Singh, he did bowl well at the start of the innings, but after he bowled those 3 no balls, I felt he sort of couldn't maintain his line and length after that. He felt a bit of pressure, and that can happen in such situations. So that's alright. I think hopefully in the next match he will learn from it and he will get better at it. Harshal Patel on the other hand, I felt in this match as well, he was a bit too predictable, and he was not able to benefit from the pitch since all his slower balls that he was trying to bowl were not really holding up in the pitch, and someone like David Miller and Quinton de Kock were capitalizing on his slower, shorter balls. So even though South Africa did play well and they scored around 82 runs in their 5 overs, they were behind the game. Oh, they were always behind the game. And India managed to win the match quite comfortably in the end. And in this innings, I also have a special mention like I had in the first innings. Deepak Chahar is the special mention. Just like how Keshav Maharaj didn't allow the Indian batsman to go after him, Deepak Chahar did the same thing. And it is quite wonderful to see that Deepak Chahar is able to bowl in the death and in the power play as well. So even though he doesn't have that kind of speed, you might say, but he was trying to bowl to his strengths, and I felt he was very unpredictable. So the batsmen were not really able to understand which ball he is going to bowl next. So that really benefited him, and even though he was bowling like 120, 125, batsmen found it tough to score against him. So he's my special mention for this particular innings. Now I have some points to discuss which are not specific to this game but about cricket in general. The first is, when your top order batsman is not in a good form, is it right to send him in the batting power play, that too in a T20 run chase? Let's take Bavuma for example. He was not able to play that freely. He was clearly struggling for runs, and South Africa sent him at a position where he had to utilize the power play. It almost felt like Bavuma was trying to utilize the power play, but he was not in good form, and because of that, he was wasting up too many deliveries. You saw that he wasted like 7 to 8 deliveries and he hardly got any score, and because of that the pressure kept building not only on him but on the South African team as well. And after that, he just tried to hit one shot on top of the mid-off fielder, but that didn't quite work out. He got out. Now the thing here is that he wasted up 7 to 8 deliveries. He didn't score any runs, and South Africa are already behind the game. And I'm not just talking about Bavuma specifically. We also saw that with Kane Williamson in the IPL that went on this year. Kane Williamson was batting in the top order. He was trying to come out and bat freely in the power play. And whenever it was a T20 run chase, we saw that Kane Williamson was finding it difficult to utilize the power play. And when he's in that kind of pressure, he's neither able to rotate the strike nor is he able to utilize the power play properly. So he's in that kind of confusion. And because of that, he not only puts the pressure on him, but since he's since he's using up too many deliveries in the power play, he's not doing good for the team as well. So, and especially for players like Kane Williamson and Bavuma, who are good at rotating strike first, and when they are in top form, then they sort of try to increase their strike rate. So, is sending such batsmen when they are not in good form at the top of the order the right thing or not? Let me know what are your thoughts about it. Now let's come to the second point. The second point is, when South African bowlers were bowling in the power play, is it right to pre-plan things when you're bowling? You saw that in the first T20 and you saw in the second T20 as well. It was like South African bowlers had pre-planned what they were going to do. They felt they are going to bowl the seam up deliveries for a few balls, and as soon as it didn't work out, they went for the slower cutters. Now slower cutters are not really their strength. Their strength is seam up bowling, But you saw they had like, it was almost programmed in their mind that okay, if the seam up deliveries don't work, let's go to the off cutters. And then the off cutters were going hit for runs as well. So they were always in a dilemma where they don't really know what type of ball they should bowl. So I think pre-planning in a T20 match, especially in the power play, is not really a right thing to do. It might work at times, but in the long term, I feel you need to understand the pitch, you need to understand the condition and choose your bowling options based on that. Also see the batsman as well. So that's it for this podcast. Let me know if you have any suggestions regarding what type of videos I should make and if there are any points that I'm missing. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.